How's it going, everyone? Got a video coming from the past today. We're going to talk about the 7 Hermetic principles and how they apply, and why, for most people, that is all that is really necessary, perhaps combined with the basic elements for most of their life, most of their workings, most of their meditations. So, let's begin with the principles themselves first. I got a list here because I will get sidetracked if I don't. So the first is the principle of mentalism. This is the idea that everything is networked. There is this weave interconnecting everything, this grid, this matrix. And therefore, everything is aware. Everything is self-aware. What would you say? It's like there's an internal awareness, but then an external awareness, an auto and an allo aspect. Because of that, we communicate with everything else via our mental frequency. Now, whether or not this is just because of how mental we are as beings, who knows? But here we are, so this is how we will work with it. Mentalism is the first principle. Everything operates mentally or is connected via some mental network. The next principle is the principle of correspondence. This is the idea that because everything is linked, it is communicating with everything else, and everything else is communicating with it. This is also related to what is sometimes called the doctrine of correspondences. And what that typically relates to is the idea of how when you wear red, you are attracting the forces that are the reason for red in many ways. That's a simple way to think about it. Then comes the principle of vibration. Vibration is the idea that everything is in motion. Nothing is resting ever. And this vibration is because of the correspondence. That's one thing that I've noticed about these principles that perhaps you'll notice as well, is that they seem to cause and affect one another to some degree. This vibration that is occurring, it is akin to the speech of our, or the vibration of our speech, our voices, but it's also related to our actions and our daily ongoings. This causes us to interact with the world in a positive and a negative way, which leads to the idea of polarity. There are things that we want, there are things that we don't want, there are times where we are active, there are times when we are inactive, and this leads to polarity. This leads to a kind of magnetism. This is where you are pushing and pulling in your life. After that, depending on who you ask, is gender or type or kind. There will be, how do I express this? Because of the polarities, there will be modes and experiences that seem to happen separate from one another. For instance, one type or kind that is related to polarity in life is that if I am constantly focused on harmony in my life, then that is a type. That is a kind of frequency. That is attenuating the frequency of your mental capacity to focus on that type specifically, as opposed to others. When we do this, we cause a rhythm to occur. We are doing this and we are receiving that. It's like a It's like a vending machine. And that is the nature of a matrix. Input will yield output. Input will have an effect on the output. And this is the idea of cause and effect, or causation. And this is the final principle. What you are doing with your rhythm is what is resulting in manifestations in your life. If you are not consciously creating, if you are not consciously aware of these rhythms that are going on, then there are other forces that are creating through you. They are using you to bring their will into manifestation. Now, that might be your unconscious forces, that might be your impulses, nonetheless. So by using these principles, we can understand how the cosmos and manifestation came into being, sure. But we can also understand our own process. We can understand how we, as creative beings, are bringing the things about in our life that we are. So if you can figure out where you are, if you feel stuck, and if you can figure out where you are in this process, it can very much help you turn the wheel, so to speak. If you are consciously thinking, perhaps using something like neurolinguistic programming, then you are much, much, much more likely to be speaking things into existence that are in harmony with your will. And if you are thinking and you are speaking harmoniously, then you will more likely be acting harmoniously to your will. And if you are thinking, speaking, and acting harmoniously to your will, then you are much more likely to attract other people and repel. I'll say that better. You are more likely to attract people that are acting in harmony with your will, while also simultaneously repelling people that are not in harmony with your will. By doing this, you will create a perspective of have and have not, which can lead to issues, but it's sort of an issue of the fractured mind of today's society. So we'll work with it. And then we create the rhythm that brings these things in that we want, and it releases the things that we don't want, or repels the things that we don't want. And that essentially affects our cause and effect principle. It yields the cause and effect principle. Now, if you are also meditating on elemental equilibrium and the elemental principles, which is to say, you are balancing the elements of your being, your wind, your mind, your fire, which is your energy, your prana, your chi, so to speak, your water, which is your meditative visual capacity, and your earth, your physical instrument, and your resources. If you are balancing these by, one, not overusing or underusing them, but two, bringing them into correspondence with one another, that will create equilibrium between them as well. If you can use your mind, perhaps with a mantra or an affirmation of some kind, or an incantation if you prefer, to bring your energy into a certain signature or manner, and you can visualize this happening as well, while also using some sort of gesture or giving some sort of external stimulus like incense or a candle or something like that, if you can do this, you will bring yourself into harmony, and it will be much easier to control your thoughts or to live in harmony with your thoughts, to then speak and manifest verbally, vibrationally, what you want. And then you will be more likely to act it out whenever life brings it to you. So, a little bit of a blast from the past here, talking about the elements and hermetic principles and stuff like that. But I'm telling you, if most of you would consider these things, meditate on these things, apply these things, your initiations would take place not only more smoothly, but almost subconsciously. And therefore, you're less likely to screw it up. Your ego is less likely to get in the way. Your intellect is less likely to get in the way. So, that's all for this one. Let me know if you have any questions or suggestions. And I hope you have a good rest of the day wherever you may be. And yeah, thanks for stopping by.